York, it is the first test they give for insanity. Does the patient do the same thing over and over and over again while still expecting a different result? Our fifth story on the countdown, the Republicans leading off today at the Sonia Sotomayor confirmation hearings with more questions about Judge Sotomayor's wise Latina speech. Meanwhile, in a new ad, the right wing attempting to label the Supreme Court nominee a terrorist sympathizer and a pal once removed of Bill Ayers. You know what else? She didn't earn those medals in Vietnam, neither. Day 3 of the confirmation hearings, the Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee confirming only a clear double standard when it comes to their treatment of Judge Sotomayor, as well as a severe case of amnesia. The nominee, at least, searching for new ways to explain the historical context of her wise Latina remarks.
As I pointed out in the speech that 9 white men had decided Brown versus Board of Education.
Do you stand by your words of yesterday and when you said it was a failed rhetorical flourish that fell flat, that they are words that don't make sense and that they're a bad idea?
I stand by the words. It fell flat. And I understand that some people have understood them in a way that I never intended. And I would hope that in the context of the speech that they would be understood.
Hoping against hope, as it turns out. Yet in 2005, during the John Roberts confirmation hearings, Senator Cornyn having possessed an entirely different view on how those proceedings were playing out.
If we keep asking the same question over and over and over again, but try to approach it from a slightly different way, are you going to give us a different answer, or are you going to give us the same answer?
I hope my answer would be the same, Senator.
Well, I'm sure that's the case.
Senator Tom Coburn of Oklahoma, back from his latest run as a FedEx escort, credited with a topic change to abortion. Since Coburn is also an obstetrician, one would think, or at least hope, that Dr. Coburn already knew the answer to this completely hypothetical question, unless he just happens to have a uterus.
Let's say I'm 38 weeks pregnant and we discover a small spina bifida sac on the lower sacrum, the lower part of the back on my baby, and I feel like I just can't handle a child with that. Would it be legal in this country to terminate that child's life?
I can't answer that question in the abstract because I would have to look at what the state of the state's law was on that question. And even if I knew that, I probably couldn't opine because I'm sure that situation might well arise before the court.
By the time Senator Coburn had Judge Sotomayor trying to explain whether the Second Amendment confers a right to personal self-defense, things seem to have entered into would any jury really blame her territory. Senator Coburn somehow morphing into Ricky Ricardo.
If I go home, get a gun, come back and shoot you, that may not be legal under New York law because you would have alternative ways.
You'll have lots of explaining to do.
I'd be in a lot of trouble then.
A subtle ethnic drop in there, Senator. The most junior member of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Franken of Minnesota, revealing that he liked the old Perry Mason TV show nearly as much as Judge Sotomayor did. She said she was inspired by it. In his question, Senator Franken touching on a topic he raised in his opening statement on Monday, the concept of judicial activism.
Judge, what is your definition of judicial activism?
I don't use that word because that's something different than what I consider to be the process of judging, which is each judge coming to each situation trying to figure out what the law means, applying it to the particular fact before that judge.
No reports of Boss Limbaugh's head actually exploding at the sight of Senator Franken in action. The Sotomayor hearings apparently taking enough of a toll on his sanity as it was, what with his accusing the Democrats of having given their questions to Judge Sotomayor in advance because she's so smooth when answering their questions, but she stumbles when answering those of the Republicans. Maybe that might have something to do with the relative absurdity of the Republicans' questions. Boss Limbaugh also having decried the minority mindset of the nominee, declaring that he had to turn the hearings off off because Judge Sotomayor, quote, was scary. For 3 entire days, Judge Sotomayor appearing calm and composed, which certainly would scare any racist or misogynist or certainly somebody who's both. Speaking of scary, in a new ad, a group that has been defended by the ranking Republican of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Sessions. That group accusing Judge Sotomayor of supporting terrorists, if not of actually being a terrorist herself, solely because she belongs to a mainstream civil rights organization that protects Latinos from discrimination.
Remember Barack Obama's buddy Bill Ayers, the unrepentant terrorist who bombed American buildings in the 70s? Turns out President Obama's done it again. Picked someone for the Supreme Court, Judge Sonia Sotomayor, who led a group supporting violent Puerto Rican terrorists. Is this radical judge the type of person America needs sitting on our highest court? What is he thinking? What was she thinking? Call your senators. Tell them to stop Sonia Sotomayor.
Let's call in MSNBC political analyst and author of Renegade, The Making of a President, Richard Wolff. Richard, good evening.
I'll try not to be scary, Keith.
Thank you very much, you pal of somebody, you. Even assuming the ad has no direct connection to any Republican senators in that hearing room, particularly in light of the fact of recent actual domestic terrorism, George Tiller, other cases, don't those senators bear some responsibility for something that coarse when they fail to denounce it?
Well, let's put this so-called ad in context. For a start, as far as we know, there was no ad buy, so this is a blatant attempt to jump up and down and get some attention. Secondly, yeah, we don't know that Republican senators are involved. No one senior in the party is involved. Thirdly, it's pretty dumb and outdated politics. It didn't work in 2006. It certainly didn't work in 2008. Having said all of that, they are following the script that Senator Sessions laid out right at the top of these confirmation hearings. Sotomayor hangs out with terrorists. Well, he said that she had ruled in favor of terrorists. She ruled in favor of foreign law in the UN, and she basically was barely American and just would look after ethnic interests. These were all proxy attacks on the man at the top of that ad, President Obama. It's not really about her. None of this has been. This is the campaign, a strong vocal wing of the party using pretty slick professional operatives want to run between now and the midterms. So it's ugly.
And the point of it, as you suggest, is there one besides going after the president on this? Because the transparency of the thing, at least outside the confines of the hearing, in the Limbaugh remarks here, is it fun for these people or cathartic to call Sotomayor words like scary when, you know, really it might be more accurate to describe her as thorough and methodical in her answers as opposed to scary?
Well, I speak to you as someone who was just called by none other than Rush Limbaugh a dunce recently. So, you know, he also said that my book, Renegade, was an abysmal failure after 6 weeks on the bestseller list. But that's nothing compared to what he's doing on this and so many other things. You know, what's scary is this sort of semi-detached relationship with reality that they have. And, look, I'm sure he's feeding his own neuroses and obviously satisfying a big audience there. But it's building on paranoia. It's this idea that I think Glenn Beck has taken to a different level, which is that there's some sort of isolated cult and only they know the truth and everyone else out there is crazy. It reminds me of a Far Side cartoon about the mad cat saying maybe it's just the rest of the herd that's mad.
Not to digress here, but in the book, are there enough pictures of naked women or lunch meat? Is that perhaps the issue with...
my eyes are burning.
As for this nominee's presentation and her demeanor, we would expect her to be cautious. But is there something here that seems sort of eerily reminiscent of the president who did nominate her, that when she approaches her views, when she articulates her approach, she sounds, in fact, anything but radical? Was that perhaps the reason he went in this direction for the first nominee?
Yeah, I think that he had slotted her into place in his mind on a very short list in the late stages of the campaign because of temperament, because of character, because of intellect, and And look, for whatever her sympathies, whatever people on the Republican side think her empathies are, 17 years of rulings and opinions from the bench show her to be incredibly well-reasoned and considered and respectful of the law. You may disagree with where she came out on some of her opinions, but she has been a measured judge by any sense of the word. So I think there is something that appeals to a politician like Obama, someone who obviously is a Democrat, but has taken centrist positions and centrist statements. It's about character, but it's also about positioning with regard to the law, and he did used to teach the law.
I noted yesterday that the Republicans might be witnessing a different kind of confirmation than the one that was on the schedule here, that Senator Sessions was confirming how ill-prepared he was and basically how stupid he was when he talked about Hispanic judges as if they all dished out one kind of law. Today, what was this with Senator Cornyn going back to wise Latina? Did he forget his own withering remarks to Roberts about others repeating the same question 4 years ago? Was he not there yesterday? Did he not get a transcript sent to his office? What the heck?
Well, I think they exhausted the line of questioning after about the first hour or two. But look, this is pretty crude ethnic politics. And yes, they're trying to play the victim card, although, again, none of her critics can point to any area of the law where she has abused white folks in any way. The limited amount of rulings there are about affirmative action was done in a panel. It was done according to the test. I think they're on very thin ice, and they expended all their ammunition in the first day.
Richard Wolff of MSNBC and author of the bestseller Renegade. Many thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Keith.